Welcome to another of our recordings on prominent industry associations and the activities that they're actually taking on sustainability. So big thank you today to Dom Tidey, General Manager at EuRA. And thank you for joining us, Dom.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm really pleased to be able to have this conversation with you. So thank you very much for asking me on.
Brilliant, thank you. And perhaps if we start the conversation, Dom, in regard to, what role is EuRA taking in sustainability on the agenda and also on the collaboration across the industry and associations to push this forward?
It's really interesting. I mean, you've been very instrumental in our progress as an association in terms of sustainability. Thank you so much for doing the MIM Plus module on sustainability, the uptake of which has been phenomenal. I think it is interesting how far back this goes. And really, I would say our organization, EuRA, has always been driven forward by the members. It's a membership organization, and we take any ideas that we have creatively as a leadership team and as a board. If they're not going to fit for our members, then they're not going to work. And because our board is made up of our members, it tends to be that it's a fairly grassroots organization. So things tend to come from almost the factory floor of the mobility profession, really. The most concrete thing that we've done over the last year was to change the sustainability policy that sits underneath the EuRA Global Quality Seal. It had always been there. We'd always had a requirement within the seal for KPIs linked to sustainability, but we've made it much more cohesive and more stringent. And again, partly, thanks to you and all of the information that you brought in that sustainability module. It suddenly made us all go, we need more defined KPIs, and we need to give our members more advice about what they can do. I think that's one of the things that really the associations need to work on. Is if people are asking for advice, then we need to give it. If people are asking for ideas, we need to have them, and we get those from the other members. So we'll be having conversations like this in Seville. You're on a panel at that conference where an awful lot of the ideas that get generated that then get turned into policies within EuRA come from things like the Q&A in those conference sessions. So, as I say, we've really looked at the seal, and anything that what we're doing at the moment as well is we're structuring our training program for the next 24 months on the policies that underpin the global seal. So we'll be working with you again to make sure that sustainability module is kept up to date and is kept really relevant.
Oh, thank you so much, Dom. But thank you to you and Tad and the board for giving me the opportunity to run that module, and all the collaborators who kindly shared their expertise and time. And also the seal is amazing. So it is about measurement, defining your actions, taking those actions, assessing, reassessing, and moving your program forward. So I love what yourselves have done with the seal there. And we'd love it if you could perhaps share on a separate time a little bit more on the gold seal and what that actually means to sustainability. Could you share some of the actions and the initiatives that you've seen your members taking on sustainability?
It's really interesting, isn't it? And I mean, we're so incredibly fortunate to be such a global organization, because you see, the different speeds at which these issues, especially within sustainability, have been taken up. I mean, I remember doing a site visit for our Stockholm conference, which must be 10 years ago. And the members in Sweden were all already at that time using either hybrid or electric vehicles for all of their work, their home searches and their orientations. They had all gone paperless, and this is way before these conversations were taking place, in other parts of the world. And it was just really interesting to see how how Scandinavia took culturally the whole notion of sustainability, but also how the government structures that are in place in the Scandinavian countries and the Nordic countries actually lend themselves to that, because politically they work on consultative government. So you have a different sort of political approach than you would have necessarily, as you well know, in the US or the UK, where it's the opposition's job to oppose the sitting government. So instead of having a situation like you would have in Sweden, where the ruling party says we need to reduce our emissions by this, and we need to make sure that we're sustainable in terms of recycling. It's not the job of the opposition to go, that's going to damage the economy. It's the job of the opposition to say, how do we do this? I mean, that has trickled, Scandinavia, in my view, led the world on sustainability. And then, you have really interesting countries like Costa Rica. We're fortunate to be running our global conference there this year, whose record is incredible. And then I was in Slovenia a couple of years back, and again, this country decided that they would make their mark on the world by deciding to become the greenest country in terms of sustainability efforts of anywhere, and they've largely done it. So in some ways, what our members have done is very reflective of the environments that they are in. And then you have other members in places where sustainability really isn't at the top of the agenda, because perhaps, I would say, because the economic growth would be at the top of the agenda in various countries, but who have taken it as their personal passion to actually put in place super sustainability policies in terms of the way that they're running their businesses. And you interviewed, a couple of those people for that module, and that's very impressive. So sometimes, we'll see best practices coming from where governments have evolved in order to do that, and then we'll see best practice coming from the passion of the members themselves. And the more that we can, do to get that kind of that passion shared, the more we can, we can spread the good work that's being done right across our industry.
That's fantastic. And yeah, thank you for sharing that as well. And, a world view on sustainability, the environmental side, where this has come from. And what work do you think is still needed to do? What's next on the agenda, do you think, for sustainability within the industry? And what part and what actions are you taking at EuRA to facilitate that?
Well, from the sort of the macro part of EuRA, I mean, we ditched our office like many organisations did in 2020. We moved to working from home, which is far more sustainable. We're very lucky. We have solar panels. We use electric vehicles. We're in a position where we're able to do that. But I think what's really interesting about the wider mobility world is how sustainability is going to shape policy. So there are two ways this could go, and you would know this as well, talking with your clients and talking with direct clients and talking with the RMCs and the relocation providers. I personally think that we will see a change or a shift in assignment type. So I would imagine that when most corporations are going down their sustainability policies and saying, what are we going to do to be able to make sure that we are assuring our clients that we are as sustainable as we can be, commuter assignments are probably not going to be a big feature of a sustainable future of most corporations, which is interesting from the point of view of our industry, because commuter assignments, they tend to be the ones which are self-funded, or at least, they're the lump sum provision type assignments. Flying somebody, halfway across Europe on a Monday and flying them back again on a Friday is not a great idea. Now, obviously, there are huge barriers, to assignments, and those tend to be, family structures or, partners' careers. Those are what facilitate right now commuter assignments. So the industry and the corporates have to be very creative about how they get the right person in the right place for a longer term assignment, or we need to be looking at whether or not virtual assignments are going to be a feature of the future. Personally, from what I'm hearing so far, but things change radically, the US has been at the forefront of allowing working from home or working from anywhere. And that has changed the corporation culture in many companies. And now we're seeing a lot of those companies saying, actually, we're losing the creativity of this, and we actually do want people to be back in some kind of central hub. So in terms of things like whether or not a commuter assignment turns into a long-term assignment or a longer-term assignment based on the project, I think we're gonna see that shift fairly quickly. I do feel that it is not sustainable to ship a sofa halfway around the world. I think that there are other alternatives in place. However, people, especially, you're moving with your children, you can't deny them their toys. So, household goods is going to be another pressure. I mean, there's so many pressures on the HHG industry as it is, as you well know. The price of containers, the price of fuel has just skyrocketed across the world. But in terms of, I think, what's going to really change our industry, the providers on the ground are moving towards sustainable models. So in terms of DSPs, it is things like using public transport to do orientations and home search. It is things like becoming paperless. It is things like choosing an energy supplier who are using the majority of their energy from renewable sources. It is about things like, you know, we were at a global quality seal meeting last week talking about the core processes of relocation. The days of the pre-arrival orientation tour, I think, just on the basis of sustainability are over. You know, why are you going to fly a family from Paris to Texas to go and see, you know, that kind of thing just isn't sustainable and is also very expensive. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think? The costs again, you know, all of that, where do you think it's going?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Dom, and thank you for that. And I think a lot of this for companies, you know, really is coming back to, you know, what is the core goal for their mobility program? What's the culture of the company? What's it delivering? What are the type of people and the policies? Because as we know, it's not a one size fits all, is it? There's general mobility, but everybody's going to adapt this from, you know, virtual assignments, remote working. You know, I do agree. I think a lot of people are looking at potentially business travel. You know, business travel, would a commuter be less of a carbon footprint? Yes. Would a short-term assignment be less carbon footprint than a commuter?
Yeah.
Shipping is fraught with danger because, you know, what is the carbon footprint of not taking a sofa, but actually it ends up being discarded? Not everywhere's got discard and donate. Then you go and buy new. You know, as soon as you go into this, it's just so complex. So I think this is where people have suddenly thought, we will take a little bit more time on this with their global mobility policies. Yeah. We'll talk to others, we'll interact a little bit more, just in case we go down a road and we end up with a huge amount of unintended consequences, and then we can't measure the impact of our company, environmental, social, you know, whatever aspect of sustainability they're looking at. But
yeah, that's absolutely fascinating to me, because again, you don't, you know, the unintended consequences, like you say, the first thing that you think is, why are we shipping goods? On the other hand, why are we buying new ones? So, you know, yeah, it's very interesting.
But it's always a pleasure to talk with you, Dom, and thank you for sharing, because, you know, EuRA, along with the other associations out there, you know, doing some amazing actions, initiatives, and really pushing the agenda in a meaningful way. And I think, you know, particularly mobility professionals and procurement people who are looking to buy these services are actually going to welcome the actions that you're taking. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for putting this together. It's a great initiative. It's fantastic to be part of your passion for sustainability. So again, anything that we can do to help with that, we are delighted.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dom. Take care.
Nice to see you.